Okay, you read the title of the video. Today we are gonna cover could Holy Terra survive SCP-001, more commonly known as When Day Breaks. But first, we are gonna have to set some ground rules. Rule number 1 is that the Emperor will not be able to use future foresight to predict the coming apocalypse. That would just not be interesting, since then he would be able to simply sacrifice 100,000+ Psykers and gain enough power to send the sun into the warp and replace it with a new, more normal one. Number 2, Chaos Gods will not be initially aware of what's happening on Terra, or at least not until Terran Chaos Worshippers decide to notify them. Number 3, this scenario will take place in modern 40k, in parallel with the 4th Iranic War. With all that said, let's start off the video, but before we do, more than 86% of you who watch my videos aren't subscribed, so if you enjoyed this one, remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Okay, enough shilling, let's just get into it. For those not in the know, SCP-001 When Day Breaks is one of thousands of different proposals for the first SCP, one of which, the Scarlet King, was already covered in a previous video of mine, so go check it out if you're interested. But this proposal, When Day Breaks, is personally my favorite. The whole concept is that the sun itself has turned upon humanity and all the living things on Earth, so it's now trying to assimilate us all for some unknown reasons. You see, if the sun's rays so much as touch your skin, you will instantly start mutating until you lose yourself and your body becomes the pawn of the sun. From then on, you will merge with other plants, animals, and humans into enormous blobs of flesh, searching for anyone or anything that hasn't undergone the merger. There also exists evidence that these people are not just mindless zombie husks, but are rather still aware of their actions but unable to do anything about them. Kind of like the servitors if you really think about it, just way more evil. Because the sun can still access their memories and will go out of its way to hunt down their relatives using the voice of their loved ones as bait. A couple of years back I read a short story in which a woman is sitting in a bunker trying to outlast the apocalypse until she hears a familiar voice on the other end of the bunker door. The voice of her deceased daughter crying her lungs out for help, that she can't bear the pain anymore, begging and pleading for her mom to help her and to make it stop. Which is frankly so horrifying, because there is a high likelihood that this was in fact her daughter genuinely begging for her mom's help, since SCP-001 can to a certain degree resurrect the dead if the body isn't fully decomposed or burnt. And I know that you are thinking about it, but no, you wouldn't be safe even at night, because the sun's rays can reflect from the moon and still get you. By now you are probably wondering how can people still be alive in the SCP universe if the sun had corrupted all the plants. Wouldn't they all die from the lack of oxygen? Yes, but actually no, since the sun had created flesh trees that still serve the same purpose that regular trees do, and as such are still pumping out oxygen to the atmosphere. Okay, with the 001's basic overview finished, let's examine the defenses of 40k's Terra and the Sol system as a whole. You'll get why I said the Sol system as a whole in a bit. But first, Terra itself has a population of 1 quadrillion people, but only about 1% live on the surface of the planet, the rest live underground. Even though this whole underground hive city concept doesn't really make much sense, I won't go further into it now because I already have a video about it that you can go check out if you're interested. The reason for such sparse above ground population density is this: because Terra is the homeworld of the humanity and the capital world of the whole Imperium, and not to mention also the place where the humanity's literal god resides, anyone who is anything in the Imperium wants to have a place of residence on there, and quite a large one of that. So the ultimate show of power is to buy a large villa on Terra and use it to flex your power and wealth. Now of course it doesn't only serve that purpose, it's also an easy way to stay connected to powerful people and negotiate with bureaucrats and wealthy businessmen. Put into more layman's term, it's a hell of a lot easier to bribe government officials and form monopolies whilst being able to communicate face to face than across 40k's version of Skype. Also, Imperial Palace is the size of a large continent, so the above ground space is even further limited by that. So at least initially only 0.5 to 1%, aka 5 to 10 trillion people, would get infected by the sun's rays and start transforming. That being said, the Underhive is full of gangs and paramilitary forces with military grade equipment. Not to mention all the Arbites, Sisters, Guardsmen, Astartes and other forces trying to enforce law and order down there. Should the surface ever be overrun with mutants, the Custodies would simply tell them to bunker down and wait until the help arrives. And considering that the odds would be 10 trillion mutated creatures versus 990 trillion Underhive people, yeah, the Sun ain't winning that fight anytime soon. Especially considering that flamethrowers are quite popular in the Underhive regions for quote-unquote policing duties. And I don't think I even have to explain to you why the Sun ain't breaking into the Imperial Palace. Both the Custodies and the Lucifer Blacks wear full body armor sets, so they would be immune from the Sun's rays. Only the Sisters of Silence could potentially get infected, although they would most likely have Emperor's psychic protection, which would shield them from any mutations. And if for some reason the Sun and the mutants bomb rush the palace with the whole 10 trillion mutants, the Emperor can summon the Legion of the Damned and the Imperial Saints to help out as well. With all this said, there is one massive problem that I failed to mention until now, that being the Soul Fleet. The Soul Fleet is the largest Imperial fleet in existence, protecting the homeworld from any and all threats the galaxy has to offer. And in a matter of minutes, it would turn itself into the galaxy's biggest shotgun pointing directly at Terra. Most of 40k ships have large windows that open and close per need basis. Most ship captains and admirals choose to keep them open whilst not in combat, to adore the view and provide light and vitamin D for the crew on board. I think you are starting to see the problem. In a matter of minutes, chaos and mayhem would occur on board of every single vessel in the fleet, as Voidsmen and the Imperial Navy breachers try to contain the threat and regain control of the lost vessels. But remember how I said that people that die and get absorbed still have all of their memories intact and are still able to use them? Well, that also means that the absorbed admirals and Voidsmen can close doors to slow down the loyalists and open armories for their infected brethren to arm themselves. And considering that the infected can have their heads removed or limbs blown off and still be just fine, yeah, they're gonna win the war of the attrition over the loyalist elements on board. From then on out, they can choose to either provide naval bombardment to their infected allies on the surface of the planet or just exterminatus Terra altogether. And considering that most of the Terran anti-orbital defenses would be under the control of the infected, there would be almost nothing stopping them. Well, except for the Imperial Palace, of course, but they could just wait until Terra rotates itself 180 degrees and then commence the exterminatus. Also, the moon would be a complete write-off, nobody's surviving on that thing. Another thing to mention is that due to the Soul Fleet imposing a blockade, off-world food imports would cease almost instantly, meaning Terra would face immediate mass starvation. It is also at this time that the Chaos Gods would be made aware of the current ongoings in the Soul system, and as such they would instruct their minions to rise up and try to hinder Underhive defenders as much as possible. Their recruitment efforts would be greatly helped by the ongoing famine across the whole world. So Imperial defenders would be set upon from both sides. Up front they would have to face the mutants, and in the back they would have to fight off Chaos worshippers and maybe even the Gene Stealer cults. It's safe to say that they would be having quite a rough one. The people that would not be having such a rough time would be Mars and the Mechanicus. Partially because Emperor would warn them and they would have 4 minutes to close their ship/naval dockyard windows and prepare, and partially because they are already mostly metal and have most of their manufacturing equipment underground. With that said, the situation would still be extremely bad. If Terra falls, so does the Astronomicon, and with it the Imperium as a whole. So as to get rid of the biggest threat to Terra, that being the Soul Fleet, Mechanicus would put every single ship it has into service, including all the extremely coveted explorer fleets and ships. Ancient Dark Age vaults would also be opened, and with them Dark Age weapons would be put back into service. And all of this would have to be done in a few hours, because there simply wouldn't be enough time for prayers and rituals of awakening. Those would have to be done whilst on board. If the machine spirit complains, it can take up its complaint to the Omnissiah. This would be so cool, the most technologically advanced fleet of the Imperium versus the largest fleet Imperium has to offer. As to who would win, it's tough to say, but I personally think it would be the Mars fleet. It would for sure have the support of the Emperor, who would no doubt teleport large portions of the Custodies on board of enemy vessels, as well as summoning large formations of the Imperial demons to cause havoc. With the defeat of the Sun's naval assets, the Imperium would be capable of delivering enough Psychers to the Golden Throne to empower the Emperor enough to simply either destroy and remake the Sun, or to chuck it into the Brass Citadel and replace it with a new one. I personally find the latter to be way more fun funny, so I'm choosing to believe in that one. Oh no, I give Terra an 80 to 90% success rate. The only real way that they can lose is if all the void ships get infected and choose to immediately exterminate the planet whilst the Imperial Palace is pointing the other way. With all that said, thank you all for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, remember to smash the like and subscribe buttons, comment whether you agree or disagree in the comment section down below. Until the next time, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye.